Hello, I'm Paul Briley, and you're listening to Off the Comma. On this podcast, we explore all facets of what it means to feel stuck in life. We talk with people just like us who have found themselves sitting on a comma and not knowing where to go next. We'll unpack the experience, where they felt stuck, what they experienced, and what they learned. My goal is to inspire you by seeing yourself in others and finding possibility for yourself. Let's get into this week's conversation. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Off the Comma podcast. I'm very excited to be back again. Just so many episodes now and so many years into a future that I never really imagined. And it's such a privilege to be able to be here and to be able to do this work and to have these conversations and to be part of these kind of explorations and revelations that we have with each of our storytellers. Today is going to be no exception. And this week, I'm here with Aaron Ryan. I'm going to let him introduce himself in just a moment. But Aaron is another one of our many, many guests who Aaron and I haven't met before. So today, during his conversation, I'm going to get to learn a little bit more about him and get to know him through the telling of his story. And I'm very much looking forward to that. So with that said, Aaron, I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to hand it over to you, like I do with every guest. As you kind of introduce yourself, tell us first, how would you like to be known? And then feel free to share with us anything else you'd like for us to know about you in terms of interests and pursuits.
Well, I'd love to be known as Supreme Potentate of the Universe, if at all possible, if there was any title that could be attributed. No, I'm one of those guys that like loves, I have to create. If I don't create, I'm going to self-destruct. I'm going to explode. It's going to be Aaron splatter everywhere. I really find it so very hard to work for someone else's dream. And so I left that rat race many, many years ago. I've been self-employed for so many years doing a variety of creative pursuits. But what I love right now is I am a dual storyteller for however long this lasts, because I'm a voiceover artist slash voice actor, whatever you want to call it. So I get to tell other people's stories in this way, but I'm also an author. So I get to tell my own this way. And I preferred this one over here, just FYI. I really prefer that one. But this one pays the bills, so this one funds that one. I have fun with either one.
Nice. I was going to say, my assumption is, like you said, you like pursuing your own dream. And so helping other people with theirs helps you fund being able to do yours, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, right now I'm the voice of United Healthcare, but
Mm.
for that, I don't know, where we would be. It's a continually eroding industry under the weight of AI,
Hmm.
lowballing clients, underbidding colleagues, the SAG after a strike, the economy. So it's been kind of going for a while now. Um, and I just, yeah, it is my own dream. I love being able to just be my own boss and pick the jobs that I want to voice. But like for United Healthcare, that's been a boon of
Mm.
business and cha-ching. So that has really helped our family. It's also enabled us to qualify for low-cost health insurance, which has been
Mm.
wonderful. So.
Okay, nice. Complete side story, but as you're talking about the advent of AI changing voiceover and so forth, I often will take advantage of videos on YouTube, guided meditations and so forth, or every now and then there's something kind of insightful. I love the graphics and the description, and then you click on it, and it's the AI voice, but it's
Yeah.
not even that. It's the white male 1950s transcontinental accent voice talking to me about peace and serenity and meditation. And I just delete immediately. It's
Yeah.
so I don't know. I maybe at some point AI will not fulfill everybody's needs and it'll bounce back around. Who knows?
I hope that's the case. The proliferation, you're absolutely right. It's everywhere and it's being
Mm,
foisted on you everywhere. So it's crazy.
totally, totally. That's a whole nother conversation, isn't it? Aaron, what else before we jump into the questions in your story here in a moment? By way of just introduction, is there anything else you'd like people to know about you?
Yeah, I am passionate about being a daddy. I am also passionate about letting my boys know that I am not perfect.
Mm,
They tell you my 9-year-old Brennan, who's going to be double digits in February, which just blows me away. I
mm.
just like, stop time, stop moving forward. I can't believe it. He makes no bones about, at the end of the night, you blow him a kiss, you say, love you, you head out and he goes, love you, dad, you're the best. And we've had this conversation where I've said, well, no, I'm not, but I appreciate it. And it's almost like he's shellacked by that admission on my part, that it's just, it's not self-effacing. It's just the honest truth. I'm really not the best. I try to be the
Mm.
best dad that I can, but but he holds me in such high regard. I love my sons. I love my 9 and 6 year old. My 9 year old is incredibly creative. I have no idea where he gets it. And my 6 year old is incredibly, so my 9 year old is a right brain creative. My 6 year old is a left brain intellect. And so my 9 year old follows after me. My 6 year old follows after my wife. And I'm a family man. I love being home. I love doing things with my family. And I love to provide and to protect. That's my calling.
Mm.
Secondarily
Nice.
to that is my calling to be a writer.
Nice. Awesome. Well, and it seems like we're going to have a fun time with your story today because you are animated, you are a storyteller at heart, and very creative. So I'm looking forward to hearing about your story that you're going to share today. So, Aaron, before we get into the 5 questions, one of the things I like to do with every guest on each episode is as you think ahead to the next 35, 40 minutes or so in telling your story, what would be your intention for yourself today?
Well, I believe in manifesting. I actually just watched a video, I think it was maybe even 2 nights ago, where Jim Carrey was being interviewed, and I can't remember the name of the host. He's a British host. He's very spunky. He has a bunch of people on at once, and I always forget his name. But Jim Carrey was on that show, and he was talking about how he is a manifester at heart. And I was like, a manifester at heart? That's bizarre. But what he did was he wrote in, like, 1994 or something, he wrote himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered. And
Mm.
then he didn't cash that check a year later, but he had that much money a year later.
Mm.
And so it was manifesting. And so right now, I'm doing absolutely everything in my power to manifest an authoring career to be the self-sustaining income, breadwinning source for our family. Right now, it's voiceovers, and I would love to see voiceovers not go the way of the dogs, because there are some clients I really still enjoy voicing.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
But I believe in having mission statements. I believe in having mantras. I believe in telling yourself daily. It's almost the Stuart Smalley approach of I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.
Mm.
You know, every day, because I absolutely indefatigably know that my calling is to be a writer. So I am manifesting in little ways every day, getting further to the goal of having that be our breadwinning income. But I absolutely love it. I love writing stories. I love coming up with something. I love the finished product and being able to hold it in my hand and go, look, I made this, this six saga, science fiction, epic saga Dissonance. I wrote this whole thing, and I just look at it and go, I wrote this whole thing, you know,
Mm.
but I did have to manifest that into existence as well. So all of it takes time, but it's so worth it.
Okay. Your intention is to manifest today or continue to support your manifesting. My intention is to support you in your intention. So, to create a space for you to be able to tell your story today, and that out there, people who hear your story might see a little bit of themselves in you and your story, feel a little bit more connected, a little less alone, and in the best of
Mhm.
cases, maybe feel more inspired or empowered to go out and do something they've been wanting to do.
That's always the goal. I'm very active in online communities to that effect. I admin some very large Facebook groups, and it's really important because the spring chicken authors, there's every day, they're under siege by scammers. They are,
Mm.
beset by all these hopes and dreams, and pinning their hearts, and their confidence to whether or not their book sells or whether or not they get reviews, and you just can't do that.
Hmm. Well, Aaron, let's jump into your story. Let's start with the first of the 5 questions, and that is where in your life have you found yourself sitting on a comma?
Well, I mean, honestly, the most recent one was leaving my almost tried and true source of income, which was being a wedding videographer slash videographer slash media tech. It was my own company that I started in 2007, but I left it all behind to pursue voiceovers full term,
Hmm.
or full time, I should say. And that was a huge risk because, here I was abandoning. People will always get married, and here I am, a wedding videographer. I'll always have that business, but I literally relinquished it, and I'm really glad that I did because I did that in 2019. And
Hmm.
2020, something happened. I can't remember what it was. It was around March or something. Something big. It's escaping me right now. But COVID destroyed the wedding industry. And
Mm.
my off ramp happened right before that destruction. So I had to put a comma on all of my media production and everything like that to pursue voiceovers full term. And I'm so glad that I did. I don't know, I doubt highly that it was an ellipsis or a comma with any chance of returning back to that. It
Mm.
was more like a period, but I really did have to put everything on hold and put everything into voiceovers. And right now I'm at that same crossroads again by putting deliberately backing off from as many auditions and marketing voiceovers as I can in order to pursue authoring full board. So I'm at a
Mm.
comma again.
Okay. So let me reflect a couple of things back and then wherever I misreflect, obviously correct me. So, I mean, I hear you talking about these at least two pivotal moments in your life where you're making the a shift. You're choosing to make a big shift. We're talking about careers so far. What is it? I kind of, so that we're not making any assumptions about the experience. What is it that makes those periods a comma for you? What are some of the things you experience as you're going through that period?
Yeah, it's concern about stability. Number one,
Mm,
as a man and as a father, my two callings are to protect and to provide. And so if I can't provide for my family, I'm not protecting them. If I'm not protecting my family, then I'm not the one who's providing for them. Someone else will.
hmm.
And those two things go hand in hand. So it's a seismic shift in the stability of our income, in the stability of in our emotional stability from day to day, wondering, how we're going to put bread on the table. Is this long term? Is this sustainable? Is this a fly by night ambition that, really has no, like, grounded in reality chance of becoming true? I have to take an
Hmm.
honest assessment of all of that. And it's nerve-wracking. All of that is nerve-wracking looking at it as a macro, it's like zooming out to 1,000-foot view. It's
Yeah.
nerve-wracking.
So there's this element of kind of it's nerve-wracking, as you said, but also unstable. It kind of puts you into a lot of uncertainty and so forth. What is it that kind of compels you to make these big shifts in your life, or at least these two specific shifts?
It's belief. It's unfettered belief. There was an old client of mine who actually became a friend. It was a wedding client. And she said, the funny thing about you, Aaron, is that you could drop you into the middle of a desert and you'd still find a way to make money.
Mm.
And I love that compliment because I mean, this is not tooting my own horn, but I'm exceptionally driven. And we talked about manifesting earlier. If I disabled my background, you'd see a huge voiceover studio behind me that was not in existence in
Mhm.
2022. But it was my dream to become self-employed. Check. It was my dream to become a full-time voiceover artist. Check. It is now my dream to become a full-time author, which I already am, and best-selling author, which I already am. But to have that provide our income, I'm about ready to put a check on that.
Mm.
I don't know about ready, but I'm preparing to. So that belief is what keeps me going in it. Sometimes another friend of mine said, "You're too dumb to believe that you can't do it."
Mm.
And also highly complimentary or hardly complimentary, as Wesley would say in Princess Bride. But I took those as compliments, and they're an attestation to my spirit, which is kind of I'll get it done if it kills me.
Well, let me jump into the second question. I know there's more story to tell here. Maybe this will sort of prompt it a little bit. As you look back at this or these two commas that you have shared, what did it create for you? Or what is it creating for you?
They're creating a sense of forward momentum and hope. I'm a my branding is sci-fi enthusiast at heart because what I write has a lot of heart at the core. An alien invasion saga. Oh no, it's aliens. Yes, but it's really a human survival story with a lot of heart and hope at the center. I love hope. I love putting hope right smack dab in the middle. And hope is a powerful driver. Hope is a powerful impetus for forward momentum. And I was given a phrase by a former voiceover agent slash entrepreneur. She said, someone's endorsement of you or lack thereof has very little to do with your trajectory.
Mm,
My trajectory is forward. And so these commas have really kind of put me in a position of hoping for seeing these dreams come true and doing everything in my power to make that hope a reality.
mhm.
There's a movie I like to pretend doesn't exist. It's Star Wars One: The Phantom Menace. I can do without it. But
You went
Qui-Gon
there.
Jinn, yeah, I did go there. I lost a lot of viewers. Sorry, the count's plummeting. Yeah, even less so if I said, the Attack of the Clones. But Qui-Gon Jinn said to a young Anakin Skywalker, "Your focus determines your reality." It's
Mm.
absolutely true. And what a mantra that is. My focus of having, books, writing stories and having them be bestsellers and that paying our mortgage, that's my focus. That will eventually become my reality.
I see you describing, that focus and that determination, and also, it seems like, kind of as you were joking about the friend who said you're too dumb to know that you can't do. We go back to the more positive framing of what you shared. Seems like there's a degree of, like, is it trust, kind of self belief? You tell me.
Yeah, well, I mean, his phrase to me flies in the face of who I am. It's comical, of course. It's kind of like a dog, a dog is described by the nobleman's father, the guy who has, in Braveheart, he's
Mm,
beset by a bunch of, scabies or whatever the disease is that he has. And he says, he has courage, so does a dog, but it's exactly a man's ability to like compromise that makes him noble or whatever. I
mm,
have courage like a dog, and when I want something, I bite down hard and I don't let go. I guess I've always been that way. So, uh, it would be a painful separation and extraction of my teeth out of that bone, if that point came where they said, look, this isn't going to happen. It'd be
mhm,
so painful to excise my teeth out of that bone. Um, I just don't believe that that is my destiny. My
mm.
destiny is to go all the way.
You sound really clear on that. I'm curious, what's the hardest part as you're going through these transitions, as you're working through these commas and then getting off the comma? What's the hardest part about those experiences?
Yeah. Well, I think, boy, that phrase that I recited earlier about the someone's endorsement of you or lack thereof has very little to do with your trajectory. I know my trajectory, yet we still, all of us, I'm not immune to this, and no one else is. We still hang our hats on the affirmation of our target audience. We hang our hats on book sales. We hang our hats on people leaving a positive review. We hang our hats on this and that all the time, and I wish that I wasn't so dependent on doing that. It's kind of like steering your car by the rear view mirror. You can't do
Mm-hmm.
that. You're eventually going to crash into a tree. And I'm just as guilty as the next guy of that. I really have to put on the blinders sometimes and just focus and write and keep putting out good material. The universe has a way, or if you're a believer in God, God has a way of honoring that effort that you've put out. And it's kind of like the something's got to give mentality of just I've built up all this goodwill in all of this book writing and sharing it with people and being out there and working the system and greasing, the wheel. Something's got to give where that wall collapses and then it's just an
Mm.
inrush of sales and acclaim. I don't really want or care for the acclaim. I just want to provide for my family with all of this this pursuit doing that.
It sounds like, and you tell me if I'm off base here, but part of what makes it challenging for you is you have such a passion for the work and doing the work. Clearly, with your background and your backdrop, you have invested a lot in what you've created. And then it's these other kind of systems around it that you kind of, the stuff you have to do in order to live in the world of publishing and the world of writing. But if you had your way, if you could go straight from writing to earning and then being able to enjoy the earning with your family, that would be kind of ideal. Is that fair to say?
It is one of the hardest things of being a creative, And this isn't just authoring, it's any kind of creative pursuit or, sole proprietorship that you take on, is the lack of support from the very people that you expect the most support from, and that's family and friends.
Mm.
It's kind of like a prophet has no honor in their own country. And you work so hard putting out the word over and over again. You're kind of beating a dead horse. And I'm humble to a certain degree. I don't like to continue to sound my own gong and sound my own trumpet, all that. But you have to continue putting the word out there. And instead of getting validation and affirmation and book sales from friends and family, the emails that come in, there's about 30 to 40 of them every day, are all from scammers in Nigerian
Mm.
and Chinese boiler rooms. And so this deafening silence that you get from friends and family stacked up against this, deafening attempts to wrangle your money unethically out of from underneath you, is such a disparity. It's so disheartening sometimes. That's also a battle that you have to just, you know, continue to work through. It's hard.
It sounds disappointing, and it sounds like you're not getting the kind of feedback, and I mean feedback in the broadest sense of the word, that you want from your community, and the people who matter to you.
Yeah. I mean, there are people whose voices are loud and clear, and they are the ones who just continue to come back and support. And God, I've got a rabid ARC reader who just, where's your next book? Okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
waiting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got a beta listener for my audiobooks. He can't wait for me to record another audiobook. I was like, buddy, these things take time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like there are some rabid fans that represent small demographics in the larger pool of friends and family, for example. They
Mm-hmm.
always make it worth your while. I'm actually talking to someone right now who I've never met before, just emailed me a question about dissonance. And so I'm dialoguing with her, and it just warms my heart because she's got all these questions about the saga, and that just means you read my book.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Mm-hmm.
was a gift that I wrapped and I put out there. You unwrapped it, you opened it, you played with it, you enjoy it, and you still enjoying it. It means the world to me, man.
Well, and I was going to say, and yet, despite the challenges that you experience, and you've described a few, it seems like you still keep doing it. I mean, as evidenced by your backdrop and some of what you've described, what keeps driving you forward?
Yeah, you swear it off by Friday and you throw your hands up in despair and like, I'm done with this, but then you're right back at it on Monday
Mm.
because it's just that dog that won't let go. It's that inner compulsion and that fire that won't let go. I just, this is my calling. I'm absolutely certain of that. Every single career that I've had since 1993, whatever, has been about storytelling. Every single one. I only know that now because hindsight is 2020, and I can look back and go like, okay, storytelling, storytelling, storytelling.
Hmm.
So it's meant to be. But um, I don't know a more concrete answer to say how and why I continue to do it, other than it's just a fire within that I cannot seem to suppress, nor do I want to. And I think
Hmm.
every creative would identify with that.
Mm. I, I love that, and I'm curious. I want to bounce something off of you here, um, and then we're going to pick up with question three. So, I, I'm creative light, right? Like I haven't written a book or made a movie, but a lot of my work entails creativity and so forth. And then I guess, in all honesty, I could look at the podcast, and this is going to be 121 episodes over 2+ years now. And I think about that. Here's
Wow.
the interesting thing that I want to explore with you. You are on a path, you're creating, you're churning out material, heartfelt contributions and creations and so forth. Do you ever find, how do I want to say this? Do you ever find that the work you're doing is also showing up in outcomes for other reasons? And let me give you an example. So I'm churning out the podcast. I could, kind of like you, I could do more to support the podcast. I could do more to promote it. I could do more with search and so forth. I'm sure there's no limit to what I could do, and maybe even make podcasting a full-time job. But I haven't, because I enjoy the creation, right? But what I have found is that in some of the workshops that I teach, other programs, what I learn in the podcast shows up in other facets of my life. And when I'm teaching people about communication or listening skills, I've actually used excerpts from the podcast to as part of exercises to have people practice certain types of listening skills and so forth. So anyway, I say all that to say I'm not just creating the podcast for its intended purpose, but I'm finding that it's doing all kinds of other things. And
Yeah.
there's all these other outcomes that come as a result of it. So, the question for you, which is what matters the most, is are you finding that your storytelling and your creation and your writing is showing up in other ways as well as your kind of primary directive?
Yeah, for sure. Well, writing books is leaving a legacy, number one. One of the legacies that I'm most proud of is a journal that I've kept for both of my sons since my first son was about 2 months old. That is 2016, and I've done that nearly every single day for him. And I cannot wait to give both of these guys, when they're 18 or 21, a journal that I've kept for them and
Mm,
for our family of our lives to show them how important they are, how important they have been, and what a mark they've made on our lives. That's a storytelling legacy.
mm,
So writing books is leaving a legacy behind me in my wake of look at all this creativity can be an inspiration to others. The other side of it, though, is that I am because of the prolific nature of my writing and the wide, genre offering that I've taken on. I mean, you look behind me and I've got all kinds of fiction over here, and then I've got literary criticism right here, and then I've got Christian nonfiction right here, and then I've got satire, whole bunch of different kinds, kids books, or actually they're over there. There we go. I can point my finger. And I'm going to work on a fantasy book when I'm done, which is right there. And so it's a wide array of offerings. And so that just shows adaptability. It shows diversity of offerings. It shows that you are well rounded. Okay. And I'm not just
mhm.
talking right here. And that can be really inspiring to a fellow author who's like, where do I go? What do I do? And I like to, I'm a pantser, I'm an organic writer. I like to just follow the breadcrumb trail and, oh, look at this. I like this book idea right now. And then, oh, look at this. Now I'm going to do this book idea. It has nothing to do with that book or that
Mm,
genre. I think that's really inspiring to fellow writers. And by virtue of this track record behind me, they can see it really is possible to reach, book number 40, book number 80, book number 120. There's people who've written a lot more than I have. It's inspiring to other authors as well.
mm. I also hear this element of I kind of I go do the thing. Like I make a decision and I go do it. And because it's very easy when we're well, anyone who's creative who is mindful of what they're creating to kind of get caught up in the analysis of it and is it going to be right or perfect or whatever, criteria we set for ourselves. And then we get so lost in the pursuit of the one thing
Yeah.
versus it's clearly apparent that you have been able to focus on producing and then cranking out product, not to diminish the quality or importance of each product, but you have what you have as a result of making decisions and taking action. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think far too many people get stuck in analysis paralysis or in imposter syndrome. Those are both
Mm-hmm.
very real. And who am I? Who's going to want to read what I wrote? Or someone who just, this is where I'm a pantser. Like a pantser writer is very organic and they fly by the seat of their pants. Um,
Mm.
that is opposed to a planner or a plotter who they want to, flashcards and flowcharts and bullet points. They cross all their T's and they dot all their I's, and it's a very systematic approach to writing, and I dare not start until I have all my ducks in a row. Well, what happens if you get a duck that, quacks its way along in there and you're like, wait a minute, oh shoot, where do
Mm-hmm.
you go? And they don't know what to do with that. Well, an organic guy will, oh, come on in, I'll find a way for you and we'll flex the story a little bit. That's the way Panther works. The
Well, and
people,
to build on your Star Wars examples from earlier, to add to your metaphor before you continue, it's like the difference between George Lucas and Disney, right? George Lucas was very much thoughtful, analytical. Disney, they don't give a well, anyway.
boop, boop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's just where that saga has gone. It's interesting, but it's also crazy.
Yeah, but I interrupted you. So you said I'm a pantser, I'm organic, I follow the breadcrumbs. Others over here can be so analytical that it freezes them. It's
Yeah.
paralysis.
Yeah, that analysis paralysis just gets you stuck. It's kind of like, Nike knew what they were talking about when they said just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I counsel this a lot when I talk to fellow authors. I don't know where to start. So start. Just start. You
Mm.
might be really surprised to see where you are taken when you just decide to start. It doesn't need to start with, on a cold desert highway with the wind in my hair, or it doesn't need to start was it was a dark and stormy night. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit. Just write something. I forget who wrote this. I want to say it was Lin-Manuel Miranda or somebody like that who said, "In a sandbox, all I'm doing is just heaving sand into the box right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll build sandcastles later.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, I'm just getting sand in the box."
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. You just have to kick your own butt, get yourself in gear, and just start.
And isn't it powerful too? I mean, not that that's easy. That can be the hardest thing is the starting isn't the hard part. It's letting go of the mental crap, right, that prevents us from being okay with it. But it's so
Yeah,
fascinating because what you were talking about, like you don't have to be too paranoid about the story has to start here, right? At all of those examples, the song that you gave the example of, the books that you gave the example of, stories and so forth, once it's created, then truth be told, you can almost pick it up and start anywhere, right?
yeah,
And not only can you do that and potentially still follow the same story, but look at what we're doing in the creative community today with and now that it's done, let's do so much more with it. And I'm not talking about, staying with Star Wars and prequels and sequels. Everybody's doing prequels and sequels. It's things like what they're doing between The Wizard of Oz and Wicked, right? I talk to my friends about this all the time. I hardly think that the original, I forget who the author of Wizard of Oz was back in the 1930s or what have you, ever
yeah,
envisioned all of this, right? But somebody else came along and said, what if we now just jump into the story in some random place and then build a whole new set of stories around it? And yet there's this creator, and I'm not going to be able to credit her because I don't remember her videos on TikTok, YouTube, etc. And she does the whiteboard thing where she shows the two timelines and she
yeah,
shows you how the two stories fit together. And it's like that was never part of the original thing, you know?
yeah, yeah. When you take something and you integrate it into canon, that's already established canon, it's always a hard thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, and prequels and sequels, you're absolutely right. People do that. I actually wrote the first three. I wrote as a trilogy in the Dissonant Saga, and then I went back and wrote a prequel, the first of two prequels, because I foolishly didn't make this one butt up right against where the trilogy started. I
Mm-hmm.
stopped it here, so I had to write another one to plug that gap. But what was so great is when I was writing volume one, two, and three in Dissonance, there's all these things that the primary protagonist, Jet, reflects back upon, and he remembers from his boyhood. He remembers life outside the blockade. He remembers what happened. And so I just went through and I was like, oh, there's one, there's a memory, there's a memory, there's a memory. And then you flesh out a narrative around all this bullet point list of memories. And then you've got a prequel before you know it.
Mm.
But yeah, it's book writing is so amazing because you just breathe these characters and these circumstances into life. It's the best way I know how to get paid for being completely insane.
Mm. I love how you said that, and yet there's so many different ways to frame that as well.
Yep.
You're describing too, just as a wink and a nod to legacy science fiction, Dune Saga, and Frank Herbert's original, and then his son and other writers, contributions based on the found manuscripts and so forth. Like it really doesn't have to be an end to the storytelling.
Yeah.
Let me ask you the third question, Aaron. What have you learned about yourself as a result of sitting on these commas?
Well, I'm a very impatient person by nature. I want to get things done, and I'm perplexed and frustrated when things don't happen as fast as I want them to. Vance, who I mentioned earlier to you, Vance is my audiobook listener, and he's just been a massive rabid fan of the Dissonance Saga. And we had a dinner one time, and I was kind of confiding in him how I was frustrated that things hadn't happened as fast as I wanted them to. And he said, "Well, see, here's the thing. You have no patience." And it was like, you know, ow, here you go. Here's your dagger back. Um, but it was bold, blatant honesty. The truth hurts. And I rush things to market, and then I go back and I have to fix them later on. I have a screenplay adaptation underway. Sorry, it's been adapted already for Dissonance Volume 1 Reality. It's actively being pitched to streaming networks. I'm so excited about that. But I want somebody to pick it up. Come on, it's a great story. Come on.
Mm,
And so that impatience translates into every area, whether it's writing, editing, marketing, the screenplay, just a general kind of get things going attitude. And I really have to slow down. That's if new authors ask me for advice, one of them is, develop a mantra, develop a mission statement, but
mm,
two, slow the heck down. This is
mm,
a long slog, and it is a worthy slog, but you have to take it carefully, and nothing ever rushed to market turns out well.
mm.
You always have to backpedal and fix things in retrospect.
So to clarify, as somebody who's listening to your message, you've shared two things that could be interpreted as contradictory, and I don't think that's what you mean at all. It's get started and slow down are not exclusive of each other.
No, get started, but go slowly. Like start quickly, jump
Mm,
in. Don't keep, stand on the riverbank and continuously dip your toe in the water and see, like, yes, it's going to be cold, or yes, it's going to be too hot, or whatever. Dive the heck in and then swim slowly and absorb that water and absorb
mm.
that feeling. But just you're never going to accomplish anything if you sit on the riverbank forever.
Yeah, well, and I think what I'm taking from this also is allow yourself to enjoy the process. As somebody who
Yeah.
also is ridiculously impatient, I use the word ridiculously for me, not for you. Ridiculously
I know.
impatient.
Guilty.
And always I get started always with the end in mind. Hurry up, hurry up. That way I can start a new thing and move on to the next thing and check a box. But being
Yeah.
able to slow down and enjoy the process and not focus on the rush and the result.
Yeah, it's hard to do. It's very hard to do. It takes discipline to actually slowly, methodically, carefully uh, sculpt whatever creative pursuit it is that you're working on and bring that lovingly to the market. You cannot microwave your way
Mm.
to success.
Ooh.
It never works that way.
Mm. I love that. That might show up in a hashtag too. Aaron, let me ask you the fourth question. I suspect we already have some ideas about your answer to this, but what has changed for you as a result of sitting on these commas?
I think what has changed is that it's always given me a newfound respect for the gifts that I've been given, and I say that with absolute humility. I constantly do reflect back on that phrase where the client turned friend said you could drop me in the middle of a desert and I'd find a way to make money. I love the phrase adapt and overcome. I love adapt or die. So here you're looking at a guy who went from a 9 to 5 job to a multimedia production company to wedding and corporate videography to wedding videography only to voiceovers to authoring. But life has come absolutely full circle. And I was in author competitions when I was 8 years old or
Mm,
9 years old or whatever in elementary school. And I had forgotten about that. Looking back, this was where I was supposed to be. So these commas have made me look back in retrospect. Hindsight's always 2020. They're all
mhm,
storytelling careers, but I can look at the different places that I've been in my life and the different careers and jobs that I've had with a really profound sense of gratitude, knowing that all of those were exceptionally formative into turning me into some kind of adapt machine,
mm,
adapt and overcome machine, because I refuse to lay down and go quietly into the night. I've got creative visions I've got to bring to life, and that's what I'm going to do come hell or high water.
mm. Okay, so now here's another question that's really off the path of the five questions. But given that, and given what you, I'm always fascinated with every guest about, the threads that show up through their stories, and especially as they kind of talk about the arc of their life. And I'm one of those people who loves to go all the way back from the beginning and see how it has always carried through. And you just did that
Yeah.
work for us. So now what I'm curious about, and I think I've asked several other writers who've been on the podcast, how do any of those traits or any of your traits show up in your writing, your characters?
Yeah, I think, well, Jet is a profoundly, although younger, I mean, because I would like, don't we all want to be younger? He's half my age, more than half my age, but he is very cynical, and I am a very cynical person by nature. Some people are natural blondes, I'm a natural cynic. But
Mm,
Jet is a cynical person, and he's also kind of obsessed with justice, and very hurt by injustice. Those are very true of me. My wife
mm,
and I are victims of cyber stalking, which is an injustice. And
mm,
so I relate very well to having been a recipient of some kind of injustice. Um, Consequently, injustice or slash justice slash revenge slash cynicism shows up in almost every novel of mine
mm,
in some, manifestation or other. Because it's a recurring theme, and I don't think God's done with me with that yet. So you're constantly in a state of learning. I don't think that I've learned everything I need to about injustice
mm,
yet. So that's why it continues to come out. It seeks exit, and it wants to, plant itself on the page and have a story wrapped around itself, or be epitomized in a character who is the representation of that justice or injustice. It just
mm.
kind of always finds its way out.
I hear different people talk about this from different angles and points of view, and they're all true, right? Is sometimes people write about the things that happen to them, and then I hear some creators, writers, but it can be any creator, right, who also describes, I have to experience it first in order to be able to write about it.
Mm.
It's the same thing, but you're looking at it from two different perspectives, and so it seems like kind of both can be true for you as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's all what fiction is. Fiction is basically just bringing things to life that don't exist. They can be grounded in reality, of course, but you can personify all kinds of themes
Mm-hmm.
in your life that have not been experienced by you personally or that you've just simply observed. And then you personify them through some nefarious or noble character, or nefarious or noble circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't matter. I mean, that's the beauty of being a fiction writer is I get to I have a t-shirt that I can't remember exactly what it says, but it's like I get to cry over characters who don't exist in circumstances that don't exist through events that never happened. Don't judge me. Um, and
Mm.
it just that's what we do. It's like we're the most paranoid or schizophrenic people living in this room, spending time with all these characters that simply don't exist except for right here and right here.
Mm.
But they do. They're so tangibly real to us. And sometimes, boy, when they are a personification of, say, injustice,
Hmm.
they're more dear to us that way
Mm.
because I understand you, man.
Yeah. An opportunity for self exploration or exploration of other people, people in general, human themes, and so forth, right?
Yeah,
And I love how you and all the writers that I know or have talked to, I mean, you're speaking it into existence. You're writing it into existence, right? So
right.
let me ask the last question. If there's more story to tell, then by all means feel free. But the last one's kind of just a sharp, pointed question. Uh, Fifth question is, Aaron, what does getting off the comma look like for you?
Oh boy. Well, the comma for me is a pause, is a respite, is a change, is a gear shift. And I would like, again, my calling is to be a writer. I would like to be on a running ellipsis. And that is a story that just continues, and there is no resolution. The only resolution that would really come is when I'm actually room temperature, right? But I want to continue writing and creating stories that captivate and compel for the rest of my life. that is what getting off the comma looks like to me.
Hmm.
It's interesting being on the comma because I'm still on it right now. It's not, it is, I'm in the middle of this pivot, this great big career pivot. And I've been here
Hmm.
before, so this is not undiscovered country. But but yeah, I would love to eventually be off that comma where I can sit back and go, I did it. And this is like mortgage check written. That came from book money, baby.
Hmm.
Right now it comes from voiceovers and book money, but therein lies the rub is like I'm on this comma of voiceovers and authoring. You know,
Hmm.
there's that pivot for me, that respite. I would love to just be off the comma and just be full-time breadwinning, best-selling, award-winning author with a book adapted to screen and coming to the screens.
Hmm.
Yeah. And have people to say start getting more legitimate mail than scammer mail. That's
Hmm.
what I'd like.
And yet, I'm not trying to fix anything for you or change your story or anything like that, but it strikes me as, and yet you are currently writing the story. Like the story is
Yeah.
being written as you speak.
Yeah, and that's okay. It's not a place of discomfort, it's a place of change. Like
Hmm.
the only constant is change. And if we grow uncomfortable with that and we resist it and we, do the 180s all the time, uh-oh, change, then you go that way, uh-oh, change, and then you go this way, uh-oh, change, and you keep
Hmm.
you keep resisting all that, then you're going to be the most miserable person because you can't adapt that much without going insane.
Hmm.
You have to take those challenges. What doesn't kill you make you stronger makes you stronger. That's the number one lesson I've been trying to drill into my 9-year-old's head lately. What
Hmm.
doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And you're not being killed. This is testing you, Brennan, and this is testing you, Aaron. But you'll be stronger in the end.
Mm. And it also seems to that, this resist to don't resist theme, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? Like you can challenge yourself to not you resist change, knowing full well that there are still going to be times that you resist. But if your overall kind of mindset is that no, let me see what I can learn from it, then sometimes a little resistance is not going to be a problem, right?
Yeah, there are people that are going to be over you in life, whether it's a boss, whether it's a police officer, whether it's a teacher, whoever. And you have they may say some things to you or about you that are gonna rub you the wrong way. And this is another conversation I have with my 9-year-old. And you have to always look for any possible nugget of truth in what they're saying. You can't throw everything out the window and just go, they're 100% wrong.
Hmm.
No, because they're usually not. Maybe they're 97.3% wrong. But that 2.7%, there's something in there that would be really beneficial for you to reflect on at the very
Hmm.
least.
Hmm. Aaron, I know as a storyteller, there's so many more things that you could share with us. All podcasts have to come to a close. As we start to wrap things up, if people want to hear more about your stories, certainly check out your books, or maybe even connect with you and reach out to you, somebody who's not a bot or a spammer. Where can people find you? We'll put the links in the show notes, and then folks can look you up.
Yeah, thank you. This is my favorite question, by the way. So, authoraaronryan.com. You can go there, authoraaronryan.com, and there's all the links for the socials are at the bottom. All the other links for the interwebs with all my other sites devoted to, the main sagas. You can look me up at authoraaronryan.com are all my social handles virtually everywhere. But yeah, I love writing. So you subscribe to the blog. I also have a Facebook group that is exclusive and private. I have much more engagement there than with a Facebook page. So you can go to
Hmm.
authoraaronryan.group.com and join there. No spam. You can find giveaways, discount codes, upcoming appearances, news on the screenplay adaptations, and more. So love to
Awesome.
have new members there.
Great. And we'll have folks check you out. And then in addition, in the show notes, we'll put this other thing there as well, which is at the end of every episode, we do this thing called acknowledgments. And that's because I believe that every one of our episodes is about hearing people's stories, lifting people up,
Yeah.
giving life to voices, right? So it feels like your story wouldn't be complete if we didn't give you an opportunity to acknowledge others. And that can be communities, causes, organizations, other creators, people in your life who matter to you. And it's your opportunity to give a voice, to give them a voice, give them a boost, promote them, and just share their story. Who would you like to acknowledge today? And I'll make sure to list them in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost would be my beautiful wife, and she is my wife and editor. God bless her because she's the person sitting at the laptop, and I walk in and go, "Where you at? Where you at? Where you at?" And she deals with
Nice.
that, and she willingly deals with it, which is just blows me away. So
Mm,
thank you, honey. I love you, Janine. My wife is incredible, and an incredible wordsmith. So there's her. I have an author contemporary colleague. Her name is Victoria Richmond, who's been incredibly supportive of my works with beta reading, with listening to the audiobooks, and being an ALC, advanced listener copy
mm,
listener. They're hugely supportive. And she always, goes on, leaves reviews online of my books. So very grateful for her. And then Vance, Captain Vance, he became the president in a few of my novels named Vance. And Vance is really supportive with the audiobooks. He's been so supportive of the Dissonance Alien Invasion saga. I don't know where I'd be without any of those guys. I also want to thank Walker Armstrong. Walker is a buddy of mine who is a former Army chopper pilot who he's kind of like that guy who knows a guy and another guy and another guy and
mm,
another guy. And he connected me with so many people who greatly helped the Dissonance saga be militarily accurate.
mm.
He's indispensable. Walker is a wonderful guy who's just demonstrated a ton of belief in the Dissonance saga. So I had to add him as a bonus fourth.
Nice, nice. Well, and these folks are all obviously very important to you. They're important parts of your story, and definitely encourage folks to go and check them out as well. So,
Yeah.
Aaron, thank you for coming today, sharing your story and your stories with us. Thanks for joining our community of storytellers on Off the Comma, and I look forward to following along and hearing where your journey takes you as well. So,
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
yeah, have a wonderful weekend.
You too.
What an honor it is for me to hear and share these powerful stories. I hope you feel the same way. Think about what you learned from this conversation. I encourage you to write it down in some form of journaling or reflection because surprises can reveal themselves to you when you write your thoughts down. If you were moved by today's conversation, pass it along to someone you care about. And if you do discover something you'd like to unpack further, book a call with me and let's talk about it. My links are in the show notes. Be sure to like this episode and follow the podcast here on this platform and all social media at Off the Comma. Feel free to interact and comment. Thank you for listening to this episode of Off the Comma. As always, keep noticing and keep listening.